Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited to have you here today because we're jumping into something that can dramatically improve the way you speak English. 50 essential prepositional phrases that native speakers use constantly. Now, you might already recognize some of these phrases when you hear them, but the real power comes from being able to use them naturally in your own conversations. And that's exactly what we're going to accomplish together. Before we get into the actual list, I want to take a moment to explain why these phrases matter so much. When English learners focus only on vocabulary and grammar rules, their speech can sound correct, but sometimes still a bit stiff or unnatural. That's because native speakers rely on certain fixed expressions, short combinations of everyday words, that carry very specific meanings. Prepositional phrases are one of the biggest groups of these expressions. They help us connect ideas, show relationships between things, and express thoughts in a smooth, fluent way. Think about the difference between saying, "Later I will tell you something," and saying, "I'll tell you in a moment." Or instead of saying, "because of what you said," you say, "in light of what you said." These are small changes, but they make a huge difference in how natural you sound. With the right prepositional phrases, you can express yourself more clearly, more confidently, and with the same tone and rhythm as native speakers. In this lesson, you're not just memorizing random expressions. You're learning the exact phrases that appear all the time, in conversations, movies, interviews, podcasts, and even business meetings. If you've ever listened to native speakers and thought, "Wow, they speak so smoothly," this lesson will help you understand why, and help you do the same. Before we jump in, I want to encourage you to be active while learning. Don't just listen. Try to repeat the phrases out loud, pause the video when you need to, and imitate my pronunciation. The more you engage, the faster you'll see progress. Sometimes learners hear a phrase many times but still hesitate to use it themselves. Today, I want to break that barrier for you. By the end of this video, you'll have not only heard these prepositional phrases, but you'll also have used them in real examples, which means they'll stick in your memory much more easily. Also, don't worry if some phrases seem unfamiliar at first. English is full of expressions that don't always make literal sense. For example, "on purpose" has nothing to do with physically being on something, and "in the long run" has nothing to do with running. But once you learn their meanings and start to recognize where they fit, everything becomes far more intuitive. We're going to explore phrases that help you talk about time, like, at the moment, in advance, and, from time to time. We'll look at expressions for opinions and information, such as, according to, in my view, and, on the whole. You'll learn phrases for daily life, including, in charge of, under pressure, and, on the way. These are expressions I guarantee you'll hear all the time once you know them. And don't worry, this won't be a boring vocabulary list. For every phrase, I'll give simple, realistic examples so you can immediately understand how and when to use it. My goal is to make this lesson feel like a natural conversation, not a dry grammar explanation. By learning through context, you'll remember the phrases much more easily. Think of this lesson as a toolkit. Every phrase you learn today is another tool you can pull out when you need to express a specific idea. The more tools you have, the more flexible and fluent you become. And just like any skill, the more you practice using these tools, the more naturally they'll come to you. So grab a notebook if you'd like to write things down, or just relax and listen closely. Stay with me through all 3 parts because each section builds on the last. By the time we finish, you'll feel more confident and more capable in your everyday English. Alright, if you're ready to sound more fluent, more natural, and more like a native speaker, let's get started and master these 50 essential prepositional phrases together. In this part, we're going to take a deeper look at some of the most common and useful prepositional phrases. Phrases like, in the long run, by the way, according to, at the moment, and, in charge of. These may look simple, but once you understand how to use them naturally, they immediately make your English smoother and more expressive. What I want you to do as you listen is imagine real situations where you could use these phrases. The more you connect them to your daily life, the easier they become to remember. Let's start with, in the long run. This phrase is perfect for talking about future results or consequences. Native speakers use it all the time when they want to show that something might be difficult now, but beneficial later. For example, learning English can feel challenging, but in the long run, it opens so many doors. Notice how natural and conversational that sounds. It gives your message a sense of perspective, which makes your speaking feel more thoughtful and precise. Next, we have, by the way. This is one of the most common conversational phrases you'll ever hear. It's used to introduce a new topic, usually something small or slightly unrelated. For example, by the way, did you see the email from your teacher? Or, by the way, I love the restaurant you recommended. When you use this phrase, your speech instantly feels more fluent because this is exactly how native speakers smoothly switch subjects. Now let's explore, according to. This phrase is incredibly useful when you want to reference information from another source, maybe a study, a person, or something you heard. For example, according to the news, there will be rain tomorrow, or, according to my friend, this movie is amazing. It's a very natural way to show where your information came from. If your conversations often involve facts, opinions, or research, this is a great phrase to master. Another extremely common phrase is, at the moment. This is simply a more natural way of saying, right now. Instead of saying, I'm busy right now, you could say, I'm busy at the moment. It sounds softer, more fluid, and more native-like. Try using it to talk about temporary situations. I'm not looking for a new job at the moment, or, at the moment, I'm trying to save money. You'll be surprised how often you'll use this phrase once you learn it. Then we have, in charge of. This one is essential for work and daily responsibilities. When you say someone is in charge of something, it means they are responsible for it. For example, I'm in charge of organizing the meeting, or, she's in charge of the marketing team. If you ever talk about responsibilities or duties, especially in a job interview, this phrase is incredibly helpful. Now let's take a moment to understand why these phrases are so powerful. When native speakers talk, they don't just use single words. They rely heavily on fixed expressions like the ones we're learning today. These expressions allow conversations to flow more naturally, with rhythm and clarity. They help speakers show relationships between ideas, whether it's time, reason, responsibility, opinion, or even emotion. Let's look at a practical example of how using these phrases can completely transform your speaking. Instead of saying, right now, I am responsible for the project. Learning English is difficult, but after some time it will be good. I want to tell you something not connected to this topic. You could say, at the moment, I'm in charge of the project. Learning English can be tough, but in the long run, it's totally worth it. By the way, I wanted to mention something else. See how much more natural and confident that sounds. The meaning stays the same, but the tone becomes smoother and more conversational. As we go through the full list of 50 phrases, I want you to listen actively. When you hear a phrase, repeat it out loud if you can. Try to think of a sentence where you would use it. If you practice like this, even for just a minute or two, you'll notice progress much faster. And remember this: learning prepositional phrases isn't just memorizing vocabulary. You're learning the building blocks of fluent English. These phrases help you think in English instead of constantly translating from your native language. They make your speech sound clearer, more expressive, and more natural, exactly what you're aiming for. So stay with me, keep repeating, and keep imagining real situations where these phrases could fit. By the time we finish this lesson, these expressions will feel familiar, comfortable, and ready for you to use in your everyday conversations. Now, let's continue and explore even more of these powerful phrases.